What's going on, Planet Poke? My name is StMRyEire, also known as Stu. I'd actually prefer if you call me Stu because sometimes I look at my username and think, what was I thinking when I made it up? So I've already uploaded a video to Planet Poke before. It was a Pokemon Showdown match that was recorded a long time ago. I actually was saving that for my channel in case there was a day where I wouldn't be able to upload a video. So that's why I didn't do any introduction and stuff like I'm doing right now. So, I'm from Ireland. I don't even sound like I have an Irish accent, because sometimes whenever I record, my voice just comes out like this. I actually sound like this, but I don't even think that sounded any different. That was just sort of dumb. So, my friend, PokeSims, etc., we've known each other for 15 years. He uploaded a story here on Pokemon, or Planet Poke, what am I thinking? On Planet Poke, called Pokemon Genesis, which was kind of a story based on the genesis of Pokemon and stuff. And I decided that for a little Halloween special, I'm going to read out a creepy story for you guys. It's currently 1 a.m. and I'm getting a little bit of the heebie-jeebies just thinking about reading the story, but I think I should be good. Hopefully I don't, urinate my pants or anything, but we'll see. Yeah, so I'll just get to reading this now. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it, and I'm just going to give a little bit of a warning, I guess, to people who are easily offended or easily startled and scared by stuff that it is a creepy story. There could be some graphic stuff in here. There may be curse words. I will try and manipulate so I don't speak the curse words, and I can pick another word with the same meaning or something. So if you're easily offended, then I'm sorry. I hope this video doesn't give you nightmares or anything. I hope it doesn't give myself nightmares, because that would totally suck. And yeah, this is Pokemon, so we're meant to be kind of kid friendly here, I guess. And I know people mightn't like that, but I guess it's kind of common courtesy. But anyway, let's just read this story. It's called Pokemon Lost Silver. So, let's get into it. You see, I'm a simple college student living alone in an apartment. I was very enthusiastic about the release of Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver here in the States. I've purposely locked myself out of all media and the internet aside for school purposes. This means no 4chan, no V, no Bulbapedia, etc. As I was busy with the school year and being poor at the time, I wasn't able to buy Soul Silver on its launch date. After my school year ended, I ordered Pokemon Soul Silver on Amazon. However, it would take a week to arrive. I decided that during that time, I would replay my Pokemon Crystal version on my Game Boy Color. However, I realized that long ago my mother threw that away because I told her the save file went dead, and I was very upset about it then. She also threw away my Silver version, so all I have is my Game Boy Color. As such, I set out to GameStop to buy a used Silver version, as it was the only Pokemon game left that they have here for the Game Boy Color. $10, fairly cheap. I went home and started up for a nostalgia trip. However, there were things that started getting bizarre, and most likely the reason why you read this. The Game Freak logo started as normal, but it just froze there. I thought the cartridge was just errored or something, so I turned it off and turned it on. The same thing happened. I tried pressing A and start over and over, and all the buttons. Eventually the logo vanished, and there was a black screen for about 5 seconds. Suddenly, rather than going to the usual menu screen, I was already in the game in the previous save file, which was odd as I was expecting all of these carts to have been wiped by the poor battery. Either way, I wasn't complaining, as I would have chosen the continue option to see what the previous guy did anyway. First off, I checked his trainer information. His name is just ... He didn't have much originality. I checked his profile, and apparently he had 999 hours and 99 minutes put into the game, along with all 16 badges, 99,999.9 Pokédollars, and all 251 Pokemon in the Pokédex. Seeing as he apparently had Mew and Celebi logged also, I'm guessing he either used a Game Genie or was a really hardcore Pokemon player back then. I checked his Pokemon to see what badass team he had. To my surprise, I saw 5 unknowns and a 6th Pokemon named Hurry. I'm thinking this must be some sort of cruel joke by the person who played the game last, but I decided to check the profiles of those Pokemon anyways. As expected, there were different letters of unknown, all level 5. I was a bit shaky with my unknown alphabet at the time, but I identified the word spelled out to be leave. As for the 6th Pokemon, it turned out to be a Cyndaquil. Mind you, this is before they were individualized Pokemon icons. The Cyndaquil looked normal, but it was level 5 with only 1 HP, with only 2 attacks, Leer and Flash. I don't know why they named him Hurry, but at the time I disregarded it. The most eerie thing that, despite my volume being at max, none of the Pokemon he had said their cries, just pure silence. Having enough of the team, I closed it. I was parked at what appeared to be a room inside Bellsprout Tower. However, for some reason, there were no NPCs around. Even more eerie was the fact that the pillar in the middle didn't move at all, as if it was just leaning on its side. There was no music at all, and there was no exit or ladder, or at least I thought there wasn't. I walked around for a few minutes, but can't seem to find a way out. There was certainly not a room I've seen in the Bellsprout Tower before. I've tried checking my items for an escape rope, but the bag was completely empty. There wasn't any wild Pokemon either. Finally, I managed to find a ladder, which turned out to be behind the pillar. The screen just turned black, and the music finally started playing. I had a sudden chill as I recognized the melody I had heard to be the theme you hear when you listen to the radio at the ruins of Alph, where unknown are at. I immediately realized that it wasn't a loading transition, but rather I was in a dark room and would need flash. Before I took care of that, I immediately checked my Pokegear to change the radio to something somewhat more pleasant. But as it turns out, there was no radio card, or even a phone, nor time cards. There was only a map in which Gold, ... from earlier, and I will call him Gold from now on, was just walking in the midst of black. I recall that Cyndaquil has Flash, so I turned off my Pokegear and made Cyndaquil use Flash. I didn't see any message saying, "Hurry, use Flash," or anything like that. The room just became lit, and I soon regretted it. The room was chilling blood red with a linear grade path heading south. The ladder I used to go up-down was not there at all. I had no choice but to head south. The screen got darker every 20 steps I made, until I finally made it to the end, which appears to be a sign. I read the sign, which said, "Turn back now." Suddenly, I was asked to answer a yes-no question, but there was no question asked. I chose yes, as I don't know what the question was, and the screen went black again, making a ladder climbed sound. The unknown radio music stopped, and in 5 seconds was replaced with the not-so-creepy Pokeflute radio music. I was in another dark room, but I held my breath and used Flash again. Suddenly it said that Hurry has fainted, which was odd since I don't recall that there was no status conditions like poison on him, and I clearly wasn't in a battle. I checked my Pokemon quickly and suddenly he was no longer in my party. In fact, after a bit of investigating, none of my Pokemon are there. They're all instead replaced by level 10 unknown. I did the same thing as before and spelled out the unknown. My then team of unknown spelled out, he died. Either way, after that creepy change, the room was lit to reveal myself in a very small room that appears to be only 4 squares big. The wall of that room were grey bricks, as if I were inside something hollowed out. Outside the room appears to be a bunch of graves, similar to the ones in red and blue. I walked around that small room and pressed A, but nothing happened. I had already concluded that this game was hacked, and some sadistic man sold it to GameStop. However, my curiosity kept me going. I checked the trainer profile of ... again, only to find that the sprite of Gold was missing his arms. He also seemed to appear less smug, but rather seems more sad and empty in a way that I don't know how to describe. For some reason, it's now said that he has 24 badges, which is clearly impossible. After a few minutes of aimlessly wandering, my character suddenly spun and did the escape rope spinning animation. Instead of flying up through, my character spun downwards slowly as if sinking. After that screen, the music stopped. After finally landing, the overworld sprite of Gold is colored differently now. Instead of the usual red color he dons, he appears completely white now, including his skin. It's as if he came straight from the colorless Game Boy games and placed into a colored background of the Game Boy Color. I checked his profile, and while now is white as his overworld sprite, he's lost his legs and what has appeared to be bloody tears from his eyes. It also says that he has 32 badges, which now starts to disturb me as this change in number appears to represent something important. I also checked my Pokemon, which contains 5 unknowns and a level 100 Celebi without a nickname. The unknown are level 15 and spell out dying. I checked Celebi's profile. He is a shiny Celebi, except that there's only half of a sprite. 1 leg, 1 arm, 1 eye. It's 1 attack. Perish song. The area I was in itself was the Sprout Tower with the immobile pillar before, except everything is apparently red now. I walked north for what felt like forever. Eventually, I finally encountered some generic men and women and non-playable characters. They were all lined up to the side, just facing the long, slanted pillar in the middle. They were also white, and nothing happens when I try to speak to them. I kept going north until eventually the pillar finally appears chopped off, with the transparent red in that spot. I went up to red without even pressing A. I was suddenly engaged, finally in a battle. The music starts again, which it sounds like the unknown radio music again, but played backwards. Gold Sprite now matches his front one with bloody eyes, white skin, lack of arms, and Red Sprite was the same as before in gold, silver, and crystal, except transparent. The text simply said wants to battle, as if he had no name, and both of us only had one Pokemon, which was weird, as I swore I had 5 unknown with me. My shiny Celebi came out, conveniently with half a sprite for the back sprite also. The shiny noise animation was different, while the sounds it made sound like multiple screech attacks used consecutively. Red sent out a seemingly normal male Pikachu, except he is level 255 and his sprite seems sad and has tears in his eyes. Rather than the usual fight item Pokemon run menu, I was given the only options of attacks. Since Celebi is only one, I chose it. Naturally, since Pikachu is level 255, he went first. Pikachu used Curse, lowering its speed and increasing its other stats. I'm not even sure if Pikachu could use Curse. Celebi used Perish Song. In 3 turns, both Pokemon get KO'd. Not like I have a choice. At this point, I didn't even go back to the fight menu, as the battle continued without me. Also note that there was no animations for all the sprites for some reason. Pikachu used Flail, which didn't do much damage despite its level and boost as its health was maxed. Celebi used Perish Song, nothing happened as it was already used. Pikachu used Frustration, which did a shit ton amount of damage, knocking Celebi down to less than 10 HP. Celebi used Pain Split, which surprised me as Celebi didn't even have that attack in the first place. Now Celebi and Pikachu were at about 150 HP each. Pikachu used Mean Look, not like it did anything. As expected, due to the effects of Perish Song, my Celebi fainted, except in the text it said Celebi has died, and instead of the ordinary drop-off screen animation, Celebi's sprite just vanished. For some reason, the Pikachu was still up with Perish Song, and didn't count as my loss. Pikachu used one different attack beyond the 5 attack limit. Pikachu used Destiny Bond. Afterwards it said Pikachu has died, with a slow fade out animation. Apparently I was the winner, as the transparent red sprite showed up and said nothing. At that point I just freaked out, as the transparent red sprite was suddenly beheaded, leaving nothing but his transparent body. The battle had then ended at the point and faded out with the music. I'm back in the overworld with a change to Gold Sprite. He's now as transparent as Red's overworld sprite. I quickly checked Gold's profile, and this time the only thing that remains is his head, with the transparent skin. His head was zoomed in a bit, showing a black void in his eyes. It now stated that he has over 40 badges. I backed out and checked my Pokemon. There was a level 20 shiny unknown, which spelled out no more. I was at what I know is next to the end. There was apparently no music playing, but for some reason I still felt something was there that could be heard. I was back in my room in New Barktown. Maybe I finally got to play this game properly, but who am I kidding? I knew this sadistic man must have done something. I walked around my room to interact with things, as I'm a bit afraid to go downstairs to see what was awaiting down there. Note, I said walked, as while the background was moving, Gold was not moving his transparent limbs at all while doing so, just floating there like those ghosts you see in Diamond and Pearl. As expected, the radio, computer, and TV didn't work, so I had no choice but to go down the stairs. I ended up at the same lower level room of my house. Everything appears normal except Mom isn't home. After failing to interact with anything in this room, I decided to go outside. To my surprise, the door leaving at the south didn't work, and instead I just walked straight through it to a void. I continued moving south to see what was going on. My house vanishes as I head south into the void. It was creepy when I entered the void. The outline on Gold's transparent sprite turned white to contrast with the pitch black. Eventually I reached the white area, and Gold's sprite turned black and transparent again. I continued south without stopping at all. After a trek south, I finally encountered something. It was Gold's regular sprite. I talked to it. He said, "Goodbye forever," notably with the spaces between the forever and the end, and vanished. As that happened, it said question mark, question mark, question mark, use nightmare, which at this point I won't deny that being possible. Gold did another escape rope animation, spinning downwards like before. I'm now back to the small, hollowed out room surrounded by graves earlier, or at least I say I was back there, as there was no sprite anymore. I tried to walk around but nothing moved, not even wall bumping noise. I checked my trainer profile with absolutely no gold sprite left. It said I had 0 badges, and all the pictures of the Johto gym leaders at the bottom were replaced with skulls. I checked my Pokemon, all of which were level 25 unknown. As expected, it spelled out the phrase I dared to read. I'm dead. As soon as I went back to the overworld, the room I supposedly was in was then covered with the same blocks as the wall. Then I figured out exactly the room was when I read the final text. It said, "Rest in peace." That room was a big grave, surrounded by other graves. Gold has already been dead. He died presumably a few years after he defeated Red. He was a young trainer who, despite his efforts in collecting so many badges and attempts at becoming a Pokemon master, was still unable to avoid the inevitable fate of death, and his efforts were eventually forgotten by the next generation. I was unable to escape from that text no matter what. I tried resetting the game and the same thing happened, at which I finally decided to give up on that horrible nightmare. After that experience, I will never look at the gimmick unknown in the same way again. They say that the first generation have folk tales and legends, but the second generation has shown how unpleasant the truth can be. I eventually enjoyed Soul Silver immensely, but I can never unthink what that rigged game has told me. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed that story. I'm definitely not going to be sleeping tonight after that, so yeah, that's pretty much it. It was pretty creepy. It wasn't as bad as I expected, but there was some creepy parts in it, so hopefully nobody gets too scared. So, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I will see you for more shortly enough. Catch you then.